Hey everyone, today let's continue our beginner guitar music theory and briefly look at harmony. And we'll focus on chords. But first, this. Hey everyone, Paul here, PZ Guitar, your virtual practice partner, and haven't done a beginner guitar theory class in a little while. Decided to go pick it up here, and we're going to pick it up with harmony. And harmony, in some respects, is a difficult thing to grasp, but we're just going to take a small chunk out of harmony here today and make sense of it, especially, and we're going to concentrate on chords. But in order to understand harmony, the first thing that you have to understand is the concept of melody. And so, melody is that sequence of single notes that you play one after another, forming a recognizable and memorable musical line. That sounds antiseptic. You know what? Here's how a beginner should think about it, or here's how a beginner can think about it. Think of your favorite Beatles song. Whistle the song. What you're whistling, that's the melody. It's just, you can make it as simple as that. Now, harmony, on the other hand, occurs when two or more notes are played or sung simultaneously to support and complement the melody. That's the key thing. It supports and complements the melody. So here's a couple of fundamental concepts that you should realize to begin to understand what harmony is. So chords are going to be the building block of harmony. They are the building block of harmony in our Western music. They consist of two or more notes. Some people say three. Some people don't consider power chords a chord, but it has the word chord in the name, so I think it qualifies as a chord. But the most common type of chord we have in our Western music is the triad or three note. And that generally consists of stacking thirds on top of one another. Thirds. We're going to be talking intervals? Yeah, we're going to be talking intervals. Remember, we talked about intervals in one of our previous classes. Dust that off and remember or relearn what intervals are, because that's going to be the key to understanding chords and harmony here today. So, for example, in a C chord, there's a C, an E, and a G note. Those are the three notes that comprise that C chord. And depending upon the variation of the intervals between those notes, whether they're major, minor, augmented, diminished, it all depends on what the intervals are. Progressions is another concept that we use with harmony and chords, and that is, chord progressions. There are sequences of chords played in a specific order. You might hear the term a 1-4-5 progression. In the key of C, for example, the one chord is a C chord. C, D, E, F is the 4 chord. G is the 5 chord. So if you play the chords a C, if you play the chord C, you play an F and a G, F, C, F, and G. When you play those types of progressions, it gives a sense of resolution and familiarity of the notes that are being played, and they all supports what the melody is. That's a little deep right now, but let's just go over some high-level terms here before we get into the nuts and bolts of today. There are some very advanced concepts. We're not going to get into them today, but I'm just going to give them the names. There's harmonizing a melody, and there's counterpoint, and there's cadences. These are terms and concepts that are way beyond what we're going to talk about here today. So don't worry about them. But just know that they exist. And there's another term that is important to understand. It's called voicing. So typically, a voicing refers to the arrangement of the notes that comprise the chord. You typically have a low, a middle, and a high note that make up that chord. But sometimes, if you take the note that's played, for example, on that C chord, it's a C, an E, and a G, if you take that E note and make that the lowest note, that changes, but you still play a C, an E, and a G, that changes the voicing of what you're playing here. It's a C chord, but it's a different sounding kind of C chord. It's kind of interesting. And typically, and that's called the first inversion. And if you take the C, E, G, if you make that G note the lowest note, and still play the other two notes, the C and the E, but if you make the G note the lowest note, that's a second inversion. Again, it's a C chord, but it just has a different feel, and it has a different sonic personality, and it can really help out and give a real interesting sound to the piece of music here. But just remember, harmony is vast and complex. It really is. But this is just a beginner's overview, and as you dive deeper into music theory and practice, you're going to encounter more and more concepts and techniques that can enhance your understanding and creativity and the expression of harmony itself. But we're just going to talk about chords here today and demystify it. Okay, chords. Let's talk about chords. As we said before, a chord is a fundamental part of harmony, and it's two or more notes played simultaneous. In our Western music, we're going to concentrate on the triad, or the three-note combination. So let's go through triads. Now, remember intervals? We talked about intervals: minor seconds, major seconds, perfect fourth, perfect fifths, augmented fifths, minor sevenths, major sevenths, octaves. We talked about all those different intervals. Well, here's where it pays off. Is if you can understand intervals, you can begin to understand the construction of chords. One of the big things that hinders or makes it complicated for a beginner are these chord names: C major, C minor, D7, E major 7. What is the F diminished? B augmented. What are they trying to say? I don't understand. Like, for example, if you hear the term C major, that's just a shorthand naming convention, and it tells you exactly what notes comprise that particular chord. And the most important thing I can say here today, when we start talking about major and minor has nothing to do with importance. A C major chord is not more important than a C minor chord. It's actually major and minor is telling you what that middle note is. A C major is a major third above the root, and a minor chord is a minor third above that root. That's it. It's telling you the whole shebang. C major. It's telling you what notes comprise that chord. A D major is telling you what notes comprise. A D, an F, and an A. A D, F sharp, and an A for a major chord, D, F, and A for a minor chord. So it all depends on just precisely what the name is, and it's just a shorthand version of saying the notes that are being played. That's it. So I'm going to give you some concrete examples. I'm going to go deep and heavy into the D chord family. Coming up, here we go. Lab number 1. Boom. Copy the following into your PZ guitar library. This is going to be a reference for today's talk about harmony. Copy this as well into your PZ guitar library. Even though that there are hundreds more chords available, we're just going to talk about these here today. Take a look at major and minor. The difference between them is that middle note. One is a major third above the root, and the other one is a flattened or a minor third above that root. The diminished chord is a lot like a minor chord in that they both share that same minor third in the middle, but the diminished chord also flattens the fifth. Suspended 2 and suspended 4 are next. Suspended refers to the fact that there's no middle note of a third. There's no third. It's being replaced with either a second or a fourth. In this case, a major second or a major fourth. Augmented is a lot like a major chord in that they both share a major third in the middle, but the augmented also sharpens the fifth. Major seventh and dominant seventh are major chords in that they both have a major third, but in addition, the difference is on the seventh. The major seventh has a major seventh on the end, and the dominant has a minor seventh. Lastly, the minor seventh is a lot like a minor chord, and they both share a flattened third or a minor third in the middle, but it also has a minor seventh on the end. Next, let's do some examples of the D chord family. First, we have the root note, open D. Then we have the fifth, A. Then we have a repeat of the root note D. And then we have the major third, F sharp. D minor. Open D is the root. The fifth is A. We have a repeat of the root note, D, another D. And now we have a minor third, F. D diminished. We have the root note D. Now we flatten our fifth A flat. We have another D, and we have now a flattened third, F. D suspended 2. Open D is the root. Our familiar fifth, the note A. A repeat of our root note D. And now we do a major second or an E. Open E. D suspended 4. Open D is the root. The fifth is A. We have a repeat of the root note again, another D. And now we do a fourth. We do the note G. D augmented. Root note open D, a sharpened fifth, this time an A sharp, another repeat of the root note D, and a major third, the F sharp. Now as we start talking about sevenths, now we're going to have 4 notes to comprising, so it's a triad plus 1. D major 7. perfect fifth on A major seventh or C sharp, and a major third, F sharp. D minor seventh. Open D's are root, perfect fifth to A. Now we flatten our seventh to a C, and we have a flattened third, F. D7 or D dominant 7. Open D's are root, perfect fifth to A, a flattened seventh to C, and a major third on F sharp. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around, and hopefully for beginner guitar players you'll learn something here today. Even if you're not a beginner guitar player, that you still learn something anyway because you stuck around. You know, maybe there's a little tidbit here and there that oh, okay, I did not know that. You know, and so hopefully the whole idea here is to demystify the chord names, because when you are a beginner guitar player, all the terminology that is being thrown at you is all completely new and there's no context. So I'm giving you the context of what a major chord, a minor chord, an augmented, a diminished chord, a minor 7, a major 7, a dominant 7. You know, there are many, many, many more chords than just that, but you know, for a beginner, that is all you need to know for the time being, and you can build upon that when you get more and more familiar. And so we did a deep dive into D. I chose D because everything is down in this end of the fretboard. You know, they're open chords. We don't have to do any bar chords. You know, I could play a D major. I could play a D minor. And it's the difference between that middle note that makes all the sonic difference to you. But when you hear D major and D minor, you know it's that middle note. One is a major third, one's a minor third, above the root note. And the outside notes are still a perfect fifth apart. You know, unless you start talking about diminished chords, then it's a flattened perfect fifth. It's an augmented. It's a diminished fifth. Or if you have an augmented chord, the augmented chord has, you know, well, you know the formula. I gave you the formulas before, because all those formulas and all those charts are now part of your PZ guitar library. So if you haven't already and you stuck around, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell. The bell is probably right there. You know, hit the bell so that way you can get notified to when I post videos here. There's going to be more to this series, you know, that we'll talk about. But again, you know, when it comes to beginner guitar theory, you know, it's being able to understand the terms that people are saying or that you're reading or people talk about, and having a context as to what in the world are they talking about. That's the whole purpose here. You know, this is not a deep dive into every single chord there is. I mean, there's slash chords, there's, you know, add chords, there's just hundreds, thousands, you know. But right now, to come away with understanding a major chord, a minor chord, that's very, very important, at the very, very least. Diminished chords, augmented chords, they don't come in too often, but you know, it's good to understand just exactly what they are, because it's an important triad. The major sevenths, minor sevenths, dominant sevenths, to understand, you know, the differences as to why they exist and what they're good for. That's what you learn here. So hopefully you subscribed, and hope you liked the video. Leave a comment. as to what questions you may have. There's a lot of smart people out there in the world, and they can answer it if I can't. So hopefully that you leave a comment, ask a question, ask a question as to what things that you want to be able to see on the channel, and I'll see what I can do. And until then, keep practicing, keep learning. I'll see you soon.